One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It is Friday, March 29th, 2013. And if you're listening from last hour when we were all over hanging out on Joe Joseph's broadcast over on the Freedom Link, then you already know who I'm hanging out with tonight. But if you do not, and you have not been tuned in, let me introduce you. First, the captain of trouble himself, the soundboard warrior, my good buddy, Joe Joseph. I was waiting for this.
Little soundboard action for you. Oh, yeah. It's Friday. Are you feeling it?
I've been waiting. I was waiting because I knew you had something lined up, Mr. Soundboard Warrior. He's such a tool. We need a little bit of laughter.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it's been a nasty week, so I'm just glad it's over.
No, you know what, dude? It's needed. Trust me. It's been a rough couple weeks for me myself, so I totally appreciate it. And also joining us tonight for the next 2 hours, and I appreciate it because it was last minute. YouTuber changed the channel, and the term YouTuber isn't even an appropriate term. I should say YouTube legend, because he's been around since I had my first Federal Jack channel back in the day. He's one of the original truth speakers. I don't want to say truther because I hate that term, but he's one of the original truth speakers on YouTube, and I'm honored to have him on the broadcast for the next 2 hours. Change the channel. Welcome to the broadcast, brother.
Hey, man, thanks a lot. I'm glad that you got me here. I watched some of your stuff on YouTube, and I've listened to some of your shows and everything. So I'm just really glad to be here. I've been on Joe's show. For, a bunch, and it's good to check out, how you do it over here and be a part of it.
Next week, Monday to Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. Change the channel, baby. Unbound Radio. Oh, yeah.
That's right. You're going to have your own show next week.
I know people have to put up with me for an hour, too.
Good.
Because I go off.
Well, like, what are some of the topics that you want to tear into first? Because I know that, you really do have, and ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen his YouTube channel, you should go check it out, but he is one super smart dude, and you get him fired up, and he just, CDC will go off. He just starts tearing people a new one.
What's nice is that you actually get more than the 3 minutes he normally gives you every couple days, It's like, oh, man, I want more. So now you can get more.
Well, that's
you
cool.
get a lot more. 5 hours
I have
more.
plenty of time to talk about some other things that I always want to get into, but I do the shorter videos on YouTube. So they give me an opportunity to get it all out there. And
That's right.
I can't wait. I'm excited.
The 8 years or so, 9 years or so that you've been on YouTube, you can that was just preparation, folks, for what's to come. Boom, 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 boom. You wait. It's going to be incredible.
I got a question for you, dude. Since you've been on YouTube for so long, and I've made this statement before, but I'm sure you could agree with this. Do you think that YouTube, like once every 3 months, they have like a meeting and they say, look, what's the most popular feature right now on the channel? And they list off like 10 popular features and they go, kill all of them. Destroy it. And replace it with this crap that we've come up with.
Yeah.
Sir, where did you get this garbage? We had a bunch of monkeys come up with it. We gave a bunch of monkeys LSD, and we locked them in a cage for 12 hours. And afterwards, we gave them a pad and a pen and said, tell us what we should put on YouTube. And this is what they came up with.
Well, one of my first news shows that I did, because I was just actually, when I got into it, I wanted to share footage that I got from Iraq, and I didn't know how to video edit. So what I did was, as I started a show called Warehouse America, and then I started doing a lot of different shows just to teach myself that, and I did MyTube News, and that was back then, and I was going over the changes that were going on YouTube from its inception, and totally being against the establishment, and then all of a sudden totally selling out. And all the phases that they went through, because I've been on since 2005, and it's always something going on over there. It's like they can't get it, some of the glitches fixed in it before they're trying to go with a new platform. Me, I never change anything. I'm just gonna leave mine like that till they force me to actually have to change it. I always like the older stuff. It's like you got enough. You need to work on with getting it down with what you got before you're trying to make it aesthetically please everybody and all this crap.
You can see they're changing it up to model like almost like a streaming type, like a video streaming type service.
It sucks.
And now they're lining up where they're making people like pay for subscriptions to certain channels. Like you can get pay channels now. I'm willing to bet that the free channel on YouTube will be eventually phased out for a pay channel over the next 5 to 8 years.
I just know that the new layout sucks. It just progressively gets suckier.
That's what I'm saying. They have a meeting every 3 months. They call all the department heads in, and they go, what's the most popular features, the 10 most popular features? And they go, well, people love this. And they go, really? Erase it and replace it with this. Because they started doing this where they'd make you change everything. Like you said, I do the same thing. I don't change my stuff until one day they just, I go in and it's changed, and you have no option of doing it.
You know what I do is I go on the Wayback Machine sometimes, and I just look and I go,
yeah, right. How it used to be when you could personalize everything and put all your stuff up.
And they had groups where people could, get together socially and have a group where, everybody, they took all of the really meaningful stuff away from it and just corporatized it.
Corporatized it. Very
exactly.
good.
But the only reason I'm over there is because I have as many subscribers as I do. And if it wasn't, and that's what it's all about to me, is like trying to reach as many people as I can, talk to them and share my thoughts and views on everything. And if it wasn't for that, I'd be someplace else trying to, build that from there. Well, Unbound Radio, for instance, that's a new thing that is coming out Monday, and I'm looking forward to that. But starting to bring people to a different a point out of that, because they're already taken away from people who are subscribed to me are getting unsubscribed. I can see my view count from every video from what it used to be until now, and the people complaining that they're not getting my videos sent out. And I've known people who actually worked at YouTube, back in the day. I'm uncertain if they still work there or not, but they were of the left wing leaning. So when I talked about Bush and stuff in the videos, I never had any problems. And then just as soon as Obama got in, since he's in the hot seat, so I'm pointing this guy at calling every move that he does. All of a sudden, it just starts just like a videos getting deleted. On YouTube, the misconception over there is that if you delete a video, it's gone. It's not gone, because I had 3 videos that somebody got into my account, and I guess I caught them, while they were still in the account, and they were stupid, whatever it was. I don't know who it was and what happened, if it was YouTube or whatever, but 3 videos got down and just erased, 3 top videos. And then I contacted YouTube and said, hey, somebody went into my account, and I said, they deleted these videos. The next thing I know, YouTube reinstates videos that I had deleted a long time ago. There was interrupted uploads, anything, everything that I had, they had a record of, and they posted it back up. Yeah, they're totally shady now.
Yeah, YouTube sucks, man. The U has been taken out of it. It should be called Corporate Tube now. Well, Google bought it, so everybody knew that as soon as Google bought it, it was going to go.
But the two cats who started and everything, they were both like the whole time it was about community. It was about the people that helped them get up there at, what was it, $6.5 billion or whatever they got out the deal.
Yeah, it was crazy. They made mega bank on that.
Yeah, and they promised. They put out videos where they promised that they wasn't going to go to this commercialized status. That was always going to be focused on the people. And it started off with, vloggers. People just sharing information, getting in groups, and, saying, here's what's going on around here. And a lot of communities were built off of that, and that's what really got it. And, of course, the corporate world came into it right off the bat, right back then, and they were doing fake shows of, like, vlogs of, like, it was LG15, this girl, and YouTube would promote it. And come to find out, she's supposed to be vlogging, and then it turned around. It was a production company setting the whole thing up, and it was a fake room and all this stuff. And they actually went on to Hulu, is what they did, with a little mini series kind of thing, and a lot of satanic stuff in it. They had a lot of satanic stuff because her parents were supposedly religious, so that's why they were so strict on her, and she was always in her room. The whole SOPs thing. It's insane how they really changed after promising that they wouldn't do that. Now other people went and tried to start other sites, for video and all of that, and trying to keep the groups that they had together. And it was a different day when they started. Like anything, MTV, like we were talking about earlier, any of those really cool things totally got, just like anything, the government just gets overtaken by the greedy.
Yeah, unfortunately. And, they have the keys to the printing presses. So when you control the printing presses and you can just print money,
Yeah, it's only good for so long, though,
Oh, of course. But they're going to use it while they can.
Oh, yeah. No, they're most certainly using it. No doubt about it.
And you know what they'll do? If they say, oh, well, the dollar bill's collapsed, and we're going to print up something new for you, then they'll call it something else, the marrow or whatever they want to call it. And once it runs out, you can guarantee one thing, that the rich, high elite, living high on the hog, going to be sitting there raking in that money that just disappears, and the poor is going to get poor. Things and conditions are going to get harder.
Well, like I said last hour, one has to wonder where the hell all that money is sitting.
But like you said, it doesn't just disappear. That money goes to somebody. You talk about the stock market and stuff. Well, the people lost their money because the value of the stock went down. Somebody got paid, guaranteed. I traded on the NASDAQ, and I watched these people on the NASDAQ, which is all electronic. And what I would do, I was just messing around with penny stocks, and I was living off the grid. And I'd just sit back as like a hobby and take $100, put in, to Trade King, and I'm gonna sit here and play with these penny stocks. I'll buy 100, 1 cent, 2 cent stocks and flip it if it goes to 4 cents, that kind of thing. And I would see you had 1 hour before actual trading came out that you could do pre-trading, and then 1 hour at the end of the market day you could do one more. Now you were limited to your actions and stuff, but I would see stuff happen 2 or 3 hours before even the pre-hour. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, what are these people getting rid of? How are they getting rid of all these stocks? You know, I really don't know that, that much about it. But it just showed me, it's like, no, by the regulations and everything, the trade regulations, they can only do 1 hour before with limited trading and 1 hour after. But these cats were doing trading, they were totally trading before, trying to affect the market. And I watch these people. It's all just a sham, messing around. But that money doesn't disappear. I don't care if the company goes
no.
Somebody's getting that
There's
money.
got to be trillions in offshore accounts.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's somewhere, whether it's in one account or multiple accounts, doesn't matter, right? I mean, who knows how they have their stuff stashed. But can you imagine how much is sitting in some of these offshore accounts? I mean, dude, there's got to be an enormous amount of money. More than enough, actually, to fix stuff and kickstart things back in the right direction. We just need to find out where these scumbags are and who has the keys to it. That's the question.
They're riding way back there, though. Those cats are riding way in the background. It's hard to get to them because you got so many puppets out there, all like pawns, all standing in the damn way. Oh, excuse me.
Even Schmeigel.
Oh, dude, I had this conversation last night, and the people that you think are in charge aren't in charge. The guy that's I can guarantee you, somebody that's high up in this whatever, it probably lives in a small house publicly, right, and drives like a 40-year-old vehicle. The old mafia dons used to do that. They would live in this old, tiny little house, drive this old beater car, and people would think he was just, he's just little Mr. So-and-so from down the street. Meanwhile, he's in charge of whatever organized crime family. That's the way they do things. The smart ones don't run around being all flashy and being, who they are and spending their money. Those are useless idiots. They need people to do that. So that way everybody focuses on that and doesn't focus or look elsewhere. That's what that's for.
And it's 2013. They've learned, all of the top elite people have learned through generation after generation after generation and through the history of time, all the mistakes of the past, what they did. And exactly, you got the nail right on the head with that one, because we probably don't even know their names. We probably don't even know who these people are, actually. I mean, we talk about like Kissinger and Brzezinski and Rockefellers and Rothschilds. I'm sure they're higher up on the list.
Oh, yeah.
But the people, I guarantee you, they keep it on the down low.
Oh, yeah, because, the real person that does is, see, like, there's only X amount of families that really rule the world. And so Satan's got one of his fingers up each family's tuchus, you see, and he's got them all like finger puppets. And that's how it is. It's like, hello there, let's go take over the world. I want to kill all the people. I want to enslave everybody. And he's just having like this big little finger puppet show going on.
But the sad thing about it is there's somebody else that either got just as much as he has or a little bit more, that's sitting there thinking that they the ones in control. See, this is how their mentality works. That's why you don't ever got to worry about, the revolution not being there. It's always going to be there as long as these turds exist, because their mentality is totally wrong. That's why I always say, like, when certain people want to blame certain groups, these certain elite, it's like, no, man, you're not looking at the grand chessboard. You're not looking at the world, because there's a lot of people that are sitting there thinking, like, we're not bowing down to these people. We've had this for generations. Our family is the most superior family, and all of that kind of mentality. That's the problem with them. That's why they can never win. They can never win, even if it was all them. There's one family that's going to be on the bottom of the totem pole. And at that time, the revolution is born again.
Yeah, it sure isn't all for one and one for all on their side. You know what I mean? It's
and then the people in between vying for position number 2 or position number 3.
It's very cutthroat. Very cutthroat. You're right. And that's the thing is, it's not love that drives them. It's not humanity that drives them. It's ego that drives them.
But that's one of the things that they envy about the rest of the people, and that's why they hate people so much. Yeah. And they project their hatred of themselves and their own fears onto everybody else. That's what the whole police state is. I say it all the time. It's a physical manifestation of their fear of everybody else. You know why? Because the general public can do things through love and through care. And a lot of these people have been raised because it was done to their parents, and then, you know, it was done to their parents' parents. It's systematic through the families. They abuse their children. They do a lot of the trauma-based mind control stuff to these kids, but they do it because these kids are raised to not have any empathy, not have any care. That's why when they're later on elitists, they go into the woods.
Cremation of care.
Exactly. Well, that's the cremation of care destroys the sacred feminine. There's a balance of feminine and masculine energy, and they destroy that feminine energy. That's what 9/11 was, a huge cremation of care ceremony. I've gone over this with Mark Passio before. Okay,
that's just a play.
Yeah, exactly. yeah.
I get that. I got Bohemian Grove on my YouTube channel, and every day there's always someone that comes through there talking about it's just a play. And I'm like, well, if you look at the list of people that are there who are supposedly devout Christians, would never, ever partake in that ritual. It's like, well, you give me your synopsis of this play and tell me what it's about, and then you explain to me why these people who are in higher office are all getting together and they're sitting here partaking in this weird ritual.
Well, I mean, look at no, you go no farther than the Franklin cover-up, because I mean that was just you want to talk about how these people really are and why they do these crazy ceremonies? Read about what they do to children and everything else. It's sick. These supposed Christian people, right?
You know how they get the general public to partake in certain ceremonies like this at certain times of the year too, and that remember, these people, they understand shamanic things, and they understand a lot of ancient cultures and a lot of occult, which means nothing more than the word hidden, but a lot of hidden knowledge that we don't have access to. So when they get people to play into a lot of the stuff and put out energy at certain times of the year too, which then they play off of. Burning Man is a perfect example. A lot of people think Burning Man is just a cool place to go party and trip balls and smoke a lot of pot and have free sex out in the middle of the desert. It's a huge cremation of care ceremony. It's like a big pagan festival. Most people don't even realize what's going on. Okay? That's how they do things. It's right in your face. The best place to hide something is right in front of you. Read The Art of War, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're going to break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And during the break, Joe and Change the Channel and myself, we were just having this epic, is the only way to describe it, conversation about our distaste and disdain for gun control and the push to take arms away from people. And I just want to continue it on air because it's actually... there is no debate. We're all on the same page, but everybody's bringing up different points, and you know, this is a huge battle. They're coming at us not from one angle. They're coming at us from every angle. They're hitting with the appeal to emotion. They're trying to scare the crap out of people. They act like it's common sense. Oh, well, you know, it's only common sense gun laws we're after. Really? If everybody used common sense, we wouldn't need quote-unquote gun laws to begin with. We wouldn't need a nanny state. We wouldn't need big government, right? Common sense would actually get rid of about 95% of the problems that we deal with during the course of a freaking day. So don't tell me they're common sense laws. That's a load of horse.
Exactly. And look at the people pushing it. They're telling you to take women take double barrel shotgun, go out on the front porch, blast off both your rounds. That's what Biden's telling people to do, or shoot through a door. I mean, these cats, that's their advice. That's the best money can buy for us in here in the United States, is these cats telling us, go out there and expend the 2 rounds we got in our double-barrel shotgun. All of a sudden, now they're talking about intruders. If an intruder comes into your house, this is what he says. If an intruder comes into your house, go out on the front porch with your double-barrel shotgun and blow off 2 rounds, and it'll scare them off. This is the advice that this turd gives us. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Now, all of a sudden, if you had the opportunity to get out on the front porch with an intruder, which means they're in your house, okay, to start with, and then you go out and you fire off your rounds, then you're sitting there with an empty gun. And it's just like or shoot through the door. You don't know. You shot your kid. You shot somebody else. You know, shoot through the door. And these are the people that are pushing this. Obama uses executive power to move gun control agenda forward. Now, today, he's going on with using his executive powers to bolster the national background check system. And to jumpstart research on the causes of gun violence and create $1 million ad campaign aimed at safe gun ownership. It's like, come on, man. And then you're spending money up, too, on top of it all. These people lost their mind. And then they're not going to get a guns, and the people out there have spoken.
Did you see Giffords' husband? He got nabbed buying an AR-15 after, he talks about how Americans don't need him. And then he said, he was like, well, he didn't pick it up that day. Obviously, the guy didn't have any, so he had to order it, right? So he orders it, and his excuse was afterwards, well, as soon as I get it, I'm going to turn it over to the police because and my goal was to show how easy it is for people to buy these weapons of war. Yeah, okay, nice try, liar. So the gun store owner, in response to that, canceled the order of his gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the reality of it is he's trying to prove a point. But the fact is that's not proving any point. And I'm sure he's hurt and he feels bad and all of this stuff and he's going through it, and I feel that. But if he looks at real statistics, he will see that, people having weapons. If you want to get really crazy about it, look at the real statistics of how many times that these large incidents have happened. And because they were using the weapons, the assault rifles, the dark weapons, that they jammed. And then when they jammed, they had to switch to a weapon. And then somebody had that opportunity to come into it. I mean, if you really want to find the problem, really, and if you want to put it on the guns, that is, because we know the real problem. All of these people that do this stuff are on pharmaceuticals, big pharmas, have all of these problems because of the drugs that they give them. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, you don't want to look at it. It's like, if I was a father and my kid, and I can say this 100%, I want to know the real deal. If my child got killed in some sort of school shooting or something like that, I want to know what caused this. And then I'm going to research. I already know.
You bet your ass I'd want to know.
I would want to know, so therefore I would research all these other school shootings and what made these people. And the one thing that's always apparent, and you notice on the last one, that they ain't giving any information out about the pharmaceuticals, which is another thing that came out today. There's still no information on that after all that stuff they released, on the school shooting. But, they don't want to look at the real problems. And anybody I ever talked to out there in the world, I'm always like the same thing. I was like, do you really want to, think about what's really going on here? Then let's look at the statistics. Let's look at the reality of it. People are out there on these pharmaceuticals and they just snap, Well,
when it comes to Kelly, I have a different view on him. I think he's trying to make himself a political career. Yeah. Like a future as like a senator and maybe a future
pick up where wifey left off.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think he's going to use his wife because, let's be honest, I don't care what anybody says about her recovery. The woman has a diminished capacity. I'm not bashing her. I'm just saying she's obviously got a diminished capacity. And what they do with her, I think, is disgusting. They roll her out to do like little speaking things, and first they built her up. You notice what they did first. They already knew what they were going to do with her with this gun control thing. They already knew. So when she was able to walk and able to talk somewhat, they rolled her out and had her in Congress, and they had her speak a couple times, and everybody, oh my God, they build an emotional attachment to her, and now she's rolled out as the anti-gun mouthpiece. Okay. You can see exactly what they're doing. And her husband, to me, he's scum. And everybody has their own opinion. That's cool. But to me, he's scum because I see what he's doing. And I think from what I can see, and others I've asked this and they agree, because you could see it. He's using his debilitated wife to further his own political agenda. And that's just absolutely disgusting.
Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about that. And he's using it, to further his agenda. And you look at Obama. they always got to have that backdrop of these people that have something bad to them all behind them when he makes some kind of statement and stuff like it. It's all put out there for the viewing audience, you know, to feel emotion, to feel that. I mean, we go back to Goebbels. You know, they learned as far as advertising wise and advertising the message, you know, Goebbels put it on for the Nazis, no doubt about that. And you can see a lot of that stuff. And I know it's oversaid a lot where people compare the Nazis and stuff like that. But just from an advertising perspective, they always have backdrops. They're never reading their words that they wrote. They're reading somebody that wrote them something. It's all an act.
Yeah, propaganda. Which one of them said it? It was Goebbels or Hitler. They said, you know, make the lie big and keep repeating it over and over and over and over and over again. And eventually they'll believe it. Like that, you know, you have to keep pounding the lie home. And they just keep repeating. That's why if you notice when they have anti-gun control rhetoric, it's the same thing. Like, turn on MSNBC, CNN, or Fox News when they're talking about gun control. And maybe Fox might try to play the role of the conservatives, but even there, if you believe they're conservatives, they're social conservatives. Yeah. They're not real true to the right conservatives. They're more socialist. But like CNN and MSNBC, how much propaganda do you see them pumping out? And it's the same talking points. And like Ed Schultz, all of them, the Maddow, all of them, Lawrence O'Donnell, and then CNN will have the same, almost to the word, the same talking points. I mean, Joe, what say you? Do you see it as? I agree that it might be overdone a little bit, the comparison to the Nazis, but a lot of it, there is the comparisons there, and also Stalin's Russia, the same thing. Lots of heavy use of propaganda and mind control.
We have it over here. It's called the CFR-controlled mainstream media. The CFR runs the media. Look at all the people in the media that are members of the CFR. I mean, so it's no surprise that they control the information stream and program the masses. Why do you think they call it programming? It's television programming. There's a reason why they use that word. Because that's programming what it is. You. They're programming you.
Your brain is a computer, dude, and when you're watching TV, within 60 seconds of watching, your brain switches into download mode. And you're downloading without even realizing it. You're watching TV, and whatever they've put in there, either subliminally or whatever hidden messages might
They play with the flicker rate.
Well, that too. Well, that's where the use of subliminals comes in. But they also hide things in plot points that you'll pick up in your subconscious, but consciously you won't pick up. That's how they formulate change in opinion on such a mass scale. They do it through the TV shows and through movies. Mm-hmm. And people go, "Oh, you're crazy. They don't do that." Dude, Bernays talked about it.
They've learned, exactly, and they've learned, you know, the different empires have learned through torture and experimentation. They've learned all this stuff a long time ago. They know how to implement it for sure. There's no doubt about that. And the first thing that any empire attacking another empire does is take out the information. All of the information, history in Iraq, they did. That's one of the first things that they bombed was the Ministry of Information. And you take out the history because they already know. They already got copies. They already know all the information that's been transcribed there. And that's the only reason why they destroy it, because, you know, if not, they wouldn't destroy it like that. But that's the first thing they do. And they've learned from mistakes of past empires. They know down to a T how to do stuff. Yeah, I mean, you know, for sure, you know, there's things that arise like alternative media, you know, and people speaking out and people actually standing up. You know, they have their plans for it and everything like that. But sometimes, you know, we are creative beings. We can come up with stuff and we can broadcast stuff that has not been spoken of in these certain terms, because we're not puppets. We're not following along with what they say, these taglines like they do.
And that's why they want to control the internet, because everybody says, well, it's because of this and the economy and that. No. They want to control the internet for one thing, the free flow of information. That's why, because they fear it. Because we were supposed to be dumb slaves. We weren't supposed to figure out how to do what we've done with the internet. Yeah. We weren't supposed to, we weren't. It was meant to track us. We were meant to be dumb. We weren't meant to be where we are. They're pissed. because they're behind schedule. And they're not happy about it. And that's why you see them running around, and you see them speeding up. You see them making all these new laws, and they have to have their Darth Vader outfits and their Stormtrooper outfits, and they have to pump out fear constantly on the TV. And the government never... When was the last time you saw a government official come on TV and say, everybody just needs to relax? You know what? Times are rough right now, but we'll get through this. We need to love each other, take care of one another, be better to one another, and that'll help change things for the better. 30 seconds, that's all they'd have to come on TV and say. They never do that. What do? They come on and go, oh my God, Al-Qaeda's in your underwear drawer. If we're not around there to save you, you guys are screwed. So they come out and they scare the crap out of everybody. So why is that? Because they're afraid. See, they're in a corner. Most people don't realize this. They think that these people are in charge. Exactly. Should we hear this when we're driving down the street and a cop pulls up behind you? Right?
Yes. Yeah.
This is what you hear in the back of your head, right? You're driving down the street. Oh my God. Do I have my registration and everything? Seriously.
Yeah.
You're supposed to... Remember 30 years... When I was a kid, 30, 40 years ago, dude, when I was a kid, you knew the cops that walked the beat in your town, and they knew your family. I got caught lighting fires in the park behind my house when I was a kid. The detective I know. Most firefighters, by the way. Most of us start off as pyros when we're younger. But the detective knew my parents. My father was on the fire department. Knew my uncle was on the department. Knew who my mother was because she worked for the town at one point. So they all knew my family. So instead of taking me to jail, which was funny at the time I asked him to because I feared my mother's beating more than I feared going to the local jail, he took me home and he said, I'm not going to wreck your life over something stupid like this. I'm going to do what you need done, and I'm going to have your mother, whoop your ass. And that's what happened. And looking back now, he did the right thing. But if that situation happened now, the kid would be beaten, tased, arrested, taken away from the parents, put in CPS care, probably raped while in CPS care, and then end up being a junkie and or, vagabond dirtbag by the time he's 17, 18 years old.
Yeah. Or on a lifetime of drugs, of like psychotropic drugs.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's just ridiculous, dude. We've made a left turn at Albuquerque a while ago. Look, when I was a kid, I was kind of a troublemaker. I told you, we got caught. You know how kids flush cherry bombs down toilets and stuff? We did that in middle school. You got in trouble a little bit whenever, you get yelled at, maybe suspended for a week or two. If you did any damage, your parents had to pay for it, and you went back to class. And that was it. Kids were kids. They did stupid things. You got smacked in the back of the head if you got caught, and you got let go. But
now the SWAT team's coming after you.
Oh, bro.
And they're locking it down, baby. Locking it down.
Shoot you in the school. They'd probably take the kid right in the hallway. You'd hear, thunk, 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 thunk. We got him. He's down. And the kid would have like an M80 in his hand.
Yeah, I know.
And they all start off by, it's just like the discipline thing for children and stuff like that, And I can see the start of it, a good concept, even though it probably wasn't started by anybody who had good and damn intentions for sure. But good intentions of watching out for the children's welfare out there, because there's a lot of people out there that, they's abusing their children, they're doing this. So I can see a cause for that. But then they got to always do what they always do. They always got to give them an inch. They're going to take a mile. Next thing you know, you can't even let the child go outside and play in the front yard or something, or they're going to say that, your child endangerment or some crazy stuff like that. These people lost their minds.
That killed me when I heard that these parents are getting in trouble for letting their kids play outside. My mother made me go outside. Remember, there was no... I was allowed to play
video games. Dude, I was allowed to play video
games when I was, maybe when I got home or if I did okay on my schoolwork. If I screwed up, the TV and all that stuff got taken away. That was a luxury. That wasn't a necessity. And I got thrown outside and told to go play. And my mother it was real simple. She had the old school, the old triangles that they had to feed people back, like the cooks would use back in the Old West. My mother had one of those hanging on the back of the house. And you could hear it, if I was in the park behind my house, you could hear it up to about 3/4 of a mile away. I had 10 minutes from the time that thing stopped ringing to get back to my back stairs, or my ass would be grass, and she'd be the lawnmower, okay? And guess what? You know what? I was back on time. I'd hear it ding, 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 because she'd ring it for about 2 or 3 minutes straight. And I'd hear ding, ding, ding. And I'd be like, I got to go, guys. Like Pavlov's dog. I'm out. And seriously, I knew because I broke the rule, once or twice and I caught the wrath. But I was allowed to go out and play. My mother just knew that she knew where I was, and she knew she had, you didn't have to worry about this wrath of child predators and stuff. Makes one wonder where all these child predators are coming from. And then when you study serial killers like I have as a hobby, you start to realize, and Holland and I talked about this the last time he was on, we went into serial killers because he has the same morbid hobby that I do.
Dude, I was going to say, we got to talk about your hobby.
Well, whatever, dude. I've learned a lot. Did you know that a lot of these serial killers were involved in mind control programs within the U.S. government?
Why am I not surprised that?
And they all started off abusing animals. There's another parallel that runs with them.
You're right. And that's a big sign, because if you're willing to abuse animals like that heartlessly, you're more apt to do that to another human as well. Because
you're totally desensitized to any kind of remorse or any kind of sympathy or any of those kinds of things. Once you start doing that kind of stuff, it's gone. You're going to take it to the next level. And that whole thing is crazy. I always notice that because I always pay attention to people who mistreat animals, because it's totally a warning sign for those types of things. If they have no sympathy for a dog they kick across the room, generally me, I used to be an animal rights activist back in the day in the early 2000s. So, nobody does that around me. And if they do, they've met with some sternness from my side. It's like, you don't want it. I'll hunt too. But, what I was always taught is you don't want the animal to suffer at all. So you want to make sure you're taking the correct shot. It's going to be as less painful and traumatic to that animal, and you can respect that animal. And that's what you're going to do. And you're going to eat that animal, and you're going to use that animal. But I've seen it across America. Like, there's nobody has respect for animals. And what got me into my latter cause was that I always figured that if I can't get people to care about people, no matter what, I'm never going to get them to care about, animals or our environment. I'm not a global warmist or anything like that, but, I really don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I do know that we are doing some damage. Now, whatever happens with that, I don't really know. I'm not a scientist, but I do know that if we can't get human beings to care about human beings, care about human beings in their community, care about human beings that are in their family, we're never going to make it work on a city level, a state level, a national level, or and have some peace on earth. This is not going to happen.
No, people need to love themselves too, because they can't love someone else until they love themselves. And people,
exactly,
we're taught to hate ourselves, man. Every day we're bombarded with stuff that teaches us to just hate on ourselves for whatever reason. Like you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too short, you're too tall, you're too plain, you're too much, you're too slutty looking, your boobs are too big, your boobs aren't big enough, your butt's too big, your butt isn't big enough, And young girls and young guys today, I got to say, when we were kids, the stuff, and even adults are succumb to it, but you can see the change in how the kids of today, the generations, compared to the generations when we were kids, it's much different. And then that's why you see these young adults, when you interact with them out in the world, they're a whole different breed, because they come from this whole just different mind-controlled generation. I don't want to call them sissified, even though that's somewhat is what it is, but it's more than that. I just want to say the only way to cover it as a whole would be to say the mind-controlled generation. Their minds have been manipulated way worse than ours have. That doesn't mean that we're not susceptible to the same crap, but it's very interesting. And as we get older, we're going to start to see more and more of these people get older and come into society and then come into positions of quote-unquote authority. But you know what? We'll have to get into that into hour 2, because I hear the bumper music sneaking up behind us. That means the top of the hour break's coming up. And hour 1 just went by like the blink of an eye. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in about 8 minutes. So go get a cup of coffee, stretch your legs, do whatever you got to do, but make sure you're back by 7 after for hour number 2. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. It is Friday, March 29th, 2013. I am your host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. Joining me tonight is Joe Joseph from the Freedom Link Radio.
Hola, Papi.
Yes, there he is, Captain Crazy himself. And YouTube legend, truth seeker, truth teller, and all-around awesome human being, Mr. Change the Channel. Welcome back. Welcome back, guys, for hour number 2. And, man, during the break, we were having this just really awesome conversation. And we don't have to go over everything, but one thing I want to bring up that's really an important point to focus on is the fact that and I was alluding to this in the end of the first hour there going into break, but the main thing I want to focus on is the fact that the simple thing is this. Everybody out there, because I want to get onto a few other things, but I don't like to leave things negative. Everybody out there is more powerful than these people that are supposedly in charge, or they have themselves in these positions of authority. They fear your true power. That is why they are acting the way they do. That's why they're running around like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off. They have to wear their little outfits, and they have to make new laws, and they have to tell you what you can and cannot do. Okay? They have to do that, and they have to tell you that you have to acquiesce to this because they need you to bow down and give your consent. See, you have the true power. They understand how it truly works, so you have to give them your consent to stomp your face into the floor. Okay?
Absolutely.
So don't give them your consent. Okay? You have the true power. They don't. They're scared crapless. That's why you see them doing what they do. Okay?
And that's why it's imperative that people know their rights. Mm-hmm. Know where they stand at every moment of every day and every situation that they go into, because the powers that be out there will take advantage of you not knowing what's going on.
No, that's right. And you can't defend your rights if you don't know your rights. It's as simple as that.
The law looks at silence as consent, literally.
Sure.
So if you don't know, it doesn't matter. They don't care if you're, ignorant of the law. That's not an excuse in their eyes. Ignorance of the law is no excuse to them. The judges have said that in court. Okay? So it's not something that, I'm pulling out of thin air. And if you don't know the law and, you're still under its thumb, we'll say, and guess what? They'll nail you to the cross. They do it every day with people all across the board. And if you don't understand anything about what your rights truly are, if you don't understand what the law really is, the UCC, Black's Law Dictionary. Black's Law Dictionary isn't going to tell you what's going on. It's a dictionary of their terms. But you need to understand what these terms really mean. I mean, the term understand. Does anybody understand what that means? The term, when a cop says to you, do you understand what I'm saying? You should say no. Because if you say yes, I understand you, you're literally saying I stand under you, which gives him authority over top of you. I'm not kidding. Go look it up.
You're feeling pressure to do it, too.
Yep.
People out there driving down the road, do you consent to me searching this car? And people really don't know what that means. Well, the lame excuse is always, if you ain't got nothing to hide. It's like, no, you don't understand the reality of the situation. Is like they are stepping out of their bounds, trying to force people they don't understand exactly what's going on. They just go along with what they have seen on TV or what they've heard about. They just go along for the game. Sure, you can search my stuff. Now, regardless of whether they find anything or not, is irrelevant. What the most important thing is they just go out there and think they can do that. And you see people standing up against that in videos posted on YouTube. You see people saying, no, I'm not going to show you my ID. Or you detaining me. And all of these things where people stand up to them and they got to cower down because they know they're in the wrong. But how many people come through those areas and have to succumb to that kind of mentality of, you don't know what you're talking about, therefore I'm going to take advantage of you.
Well, what's worse is when the police officer has to call the duty sergeant because they have no idea what they're talking about, and then the duty sergeant don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, that video got me riled up. I was like, yes, back in my younger days, I would have just went out in my truck and just rode around and did that kind of thing. And I feel it in my heart and feel that it's good that you got, the younger folks out there are taking these things and they're videoing them and they're taking these types of action. It goes back to what we were talking about, over the break and everything about, positive things taking form. And it is. It is, as much as they go forward, we're right along beside them. They're not going to win this struggle. The power of the people is way higher.
We're like a bunch of rabid dogs, and we're right on their keisters, nipping at their heels. And make them run. Screw that. These people are evil on so many different levels, and it's about time somebody stood up. I mean, people have been standing up for a long time, but the problem is it's been so few and far between, and there was really no other way besides mailing cassettes or books and stuff out, you know what I mean? And then the internet came along, and all of a sudden, the internet was gaining speed long before they paid attention to it. At least our use of it in a positive way to change things, right, was gaining speed. They laughed at it. They thought it was a joke. They didn't start to take it serious till about 2007, 2006, 2007. And then since then, they've realized that the internet is not a joke. And now that's all of a sudden you see all they pay attention to and all they focus on is hack attacks and this and that. And, oh, my God, they're going to hack this and they're going to hack that. I've had hackers on my broadcast before that have said, look, in the coming months you're going to see hack attacks on, this type of thing, and this type of thing. And this is how it's going to happen. And they're going to blame this, and this. And then 6 months later, it'll happen exactly like that.
There was a crew that I actually became friends with, and they were a hacker group, and they had recently told me that to watch out. There was a bunch of stuff coming down. It was a clown of the what was it? Clan of the Dead Cow. It was CDC. And they actually contacted me and told me to cease and desist from using CDC as one of my tags on my video.
How do you like that?
You know what? And then I went because I knew some people who were working at Pandora's Box and Google and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, these cats came up there running their mouth. Is it just some troll, But I had a feeling. And so I asked them, and they were like, no, don't mess with those guys. Don't mess with those guys. They will rip you apart. These are people really underground. And so I actually, I was like, I didn't know you guys. I talked to some friends and everything. And anyway, I've been friends with them for 6-7 years now. And they told me, it's like, watch out, the internet thing. There's gonna be some stuff going down. They've heard it through their little by the campfire and everything, that some stuff on the internet is really going to be just as big as a terrorist bombing or something like that.
They call it an Internet 9/11, and they've already got an Internet Patriot Act sitting in a drawer waiting. I have a video I put together. I'll shoot you a link to it either during the break or when we get off air later. I'll drop it to you. But I threw it together, and in there you see, and this was, I think it was 2007, 2008, maybe even 2009, somewhere around there. If I remember correctly, he's either Stanford, I think he's a Stanford law professor, and he was, at this panel, at this, wherever the hell it was. It says it in the video. I can't quite remember the exact details, but he's on this panel, and he's discussing how he was talking to Richard Clark, okay? Everybody knows who Richard Clark is, right? He's talking to him about internet and cyber warfare and everything, and Richard Clark told him that there's an Internet Patriot Act sitting in a drawer waiting for a quote-unquote Internet 9/11 that will undoubtedly, inevitably happen. Now, how is it inevitable that it's going to happen? Only the powers that be, or I like to call them the powers that shouldn't be, who want to clamp down on things, would have anything to gain from taking down the internet. No hacker at all would want to take the internet down. What would Anonymous gain by taking the internet down? That's how they operate. It'd be like taking a knife, jamming it in one side of your throat, and dragging it all the way to the other side of your throat, and then just staring at yourself in the mirror and watching yourself bleed to death in about 30 seconds. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that would take us back to the Stone Age. We'd have to go back up on the corner, passing out brochures and stuff like that. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so why would Anonymous or any, a lot, and I've talked about the hackers with this too, where a lot of the times these groups that are supposedly anonymous, it's not really these hacktivists, young kids or even the older generations now that are hackers that get into it. It's not them. It's the feds doing it. These Fed-hired hackers that do it under the guise of an anonymous group.
Mm-hmm.
And then Anonymous gets blamed, and it's really not an anonymous group at all by any means.
Oh, yeah, they're working on it, too. And that's the thing about it is other countries are working on that same thing. What was it? This summer is supposed to be the Black Summer, back to that, the dark, summer. And Al-Qaeda had purportedly put out this thing on an Al-Qaeda website that was saying that it was a call out to all hackers around the world for a Black Summer on U.S. installations. And anything that they could take out. So, they're going to do something. It's guaranteed they're going to let something happen. They're going to sidestep, or they're going to, push along the groups, do like they always do. Push along the groups, fund the groups to do something. But then again, it could be it could be, Chinese activists that join the deal. I mean, it always goes back to that. It's just individual people in positions of power.
Well, you have that. You do have that. But like the hackers told me, because I asked them that. I said, well, is there a possibility that they could hack, into our infrastructure? I said, I know it sounds crazy, but to me, I would ask, why is it plugged into the internet to begin with? And he said, it's not. They might have an internet connection in like the secretary's office or like the boss's office to, Comcast or whatever their internet service provider is, right? To get on the YouTube or whatever and surf the internet or Facebook. But the reactors, at like a nuke power plant or, that stuff's not on. You can't go on, mynukepowerplant.com, put in your,
exactly.
Zip code.
But the thing is, there is a hub. There is a hub. It's called Pandora's Box. And that's where everything that's over here comes through. Everything that goes out of here goes through. And I knew people who worked there. They ended up leaving and doing other ventures, But they worked there in the earlier days back in, 2003, 2004. And that's where all of it is. They they actually have the ability to intercept anything. I mean, and it's less known than anything. It's less known than anything. People really don't know about it. And it's really crazy. Pandora's box.
The infrastructure, though, I agree with that. But the infrastructure itself isn't hooked up to an outside source at all. It's got its own internal thing. The military works the same way. It's been that way for years. When I was in, it was at least 10 years old, and this was 10, 11 years ago. And
but they got a lot of soft targets, though. That's the thing about it. They got a lot of soft targets.
But they also hook everything up to the internet now. Petraeus says he wants an internet of things. Why are they giving refrigerators an IP address?
Yeah, so they can attack you and you want to go for that bologna sandwich.
Well, no, that's what they'll get everything hooked up to the internet, and then you'll see, like, with this attack, this spam house attack, I don't buy this whole thing. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to my hacker buddies yet about this, but this hack attack that slowed the internet down the other day, to me, that is like a prime example of the kind of shenanigans that they would pull to go, you see, we need internet restrictions worldwide, and the UN should do it.
I didn't see anything either. I didn't see any interruptions. I didn't see any slower speeds or anything myself. And I was wondering about that. It's like, what is other people experiencing out there?
My favorite is when they were telling everybody, this is why they supposedly jacked back on the bandwidth. Because they said, mobile companies, the FCC told the mobile companies they had to start cutting back on people's bandwidth on their cell phones. Why is that? Well, and they said, we're running out of bandwidth. People's mobile devices are growing too fast and they're eating up too much bandwidth. No, it was the fact that the technology was growing so fast and the ability for people to contact one another and talk to one another openly and freely without any sort of restriction was growing out of the capability of their control. And they pooped in their pants. And they reacted out of fear like they do with everything else. And they said, nope, can't do that. We should be at least 100 or 200 years beyond where we are technologically.
Oh, easy, man. I mean, think about, with Tesla, and he was 100 years ahead of his time. How many, you look at like Murray Murray was another brilliant scientist, way ahead of his time, and the technology was stifled for a reason, because God forbid we have free energy or anything like that. I mean,
they ain't gonna make no money off of that.
Exactly. Just like, why don't we have hover cars? Oh, well, the tire industry might be pissed off at that. It's not like we don't have the technology. It's there.
Well, I was listening to one of the local AM stations here this afternoon while I was driving around, and a guy made a point on air, and I almost couldn't believe it. I almost screamed out loud in my car, like, wow, I was that surprised by it. The guy there, he's talking to the host, and the host is, babbling back and blah, 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 blah. And the guy said something to the effect of, because there was a miscommunication, and it was like a lost in translation type thing that, scenario they were talking about. And the guy goes, well, what I don't get is, with all this technology we have, how come there isn't a program that somebody in, one end of the world can call somewhere else in another end of the world, and the technology exists that they speak in their language, and the computer automatically translates it into the proper language that say it's English to like Farsi or English to German or something, you wouldn't have to learn the other language. You could speak, and you see it in Star Wars and Star Trek and stuff. They have these translators, right? How come we don't have that technology yet? Gee, I wonder why they wouldn't want free communication between people across the world through different languages. Makes me think of the story of the Tower of Babel. Where everybody spoke the same language, and they were building the tower to go up into the heavens, and then the quote-unquote gods came down, which could be interpreted as aliens if you'd like to look at it that way, but whatever you want to call them, it came down, whatever it is, this other power came down and said, no, no, no. And what did they do? Supposedly they separated everybody by different languages, right? So they couldn't talk to each other and pass on knowledge and stuff, right? Makes one wonder why they haven't given out translators yet, like real accurate computer translators. And I don't want to hear we don't have the technology for it. We can remotely control a rover on Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
Every argument is irrelevant. I don't want to hear it. We're remotely controlling a rover on Mars. Any argument about no technology here on the planet could do what I just asked is irrelevant. What say you guys?
I mean, they're not going to pull it out. They're not going to utilize any of the really good technology. They're going to keep it to the side. They're making enough money and spinning the wheel.
Right.
No, exactly. But for themselves, I mean, we can't even imagine. I mean, we can look at Tesla, and we can see his patents, and we can see the things that he made and his direction going, but like that's a long time ago. They already skimmied off of that and got something else going, and all this stuff they collect. I can't even imagine. And people are like, well, if they had it, they would put it out there. I'm like, no, they wouldn't. They're not going to show. They're going to show you a full hand. You're not going to do that. No way in the world. Especially if it's free. If it's free, oh my goodness gracious, God Almighty. These cats ain't no free. That's a nasty, nasty word.
Remember when Tesla first came up with his free energy transmission system, the first thing that Westinghouse asked is, where do I put the meter? And when Westinghouse found out that no, there's no meter, he pulled the plug on the funding for it.
Yeah, he went and called his buddy J.P. Morgan and said, can you believe what this crazy a-hole wants to do? He wants to give people free electricity. And J.P. Morgan went, what? Turn that off. Exactly.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And they used everything against him too. Like he actually picked up the frequencies of the different planets, and he's the one that put it into interpretation that our bodies transmitted that same frequency as these other planets. But to him, he was receiving something. So he came out in his speech out there with a bunch of those elite cats and donors and all that, and he told them, he's like, this is an alien message from another planet. So therefore they just cooked him into this, he's old crazy kook, but in reality, you could see why he would understand that, thinking that it was an alien transmission from another planet until, later scientists put it together. It was like, that the human body and the planets emit the same frequencies.
Yeah, the Schumann resonance.
Mm-hmm. 26 cycle home.
Dude, we're all on the same frequency. So I say it's insane that people kill each other over a piece of sand. Like, just total retardation. Or we argue it, we kill each other over whose imaginary friend is cooler. Like, really? Like, there's so much more out there to, like, go and explore and check out. And I'm telling you, if I believe that there's other life out in the universe, to think otherwise to me is arrogant and ignorant. But I think that, whether, I'm sure the aliens do, maybe come here once in a while and snatch people up or whatever. But as a whole, I think whatever's out there, they don't come here openly and show themselves, because do we go and have coffee and steak or beers with the monkeys in a zoo who fling poop at each other? No. And we're the monkeys in the zoo. They look at us and we're, you don't want to. Earth's a cool live reality TV show. You can get close enough to watch it, but don't get too close because the natives are a bit restless.
Yeah, you could say that again.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It is totally unlogical to think that we don't even really know about our planet, not let alone trying to figure out our solar system or the universe, to definitively say there is no intelligent life out there because they hadn't landed on the planet and came and talked to everybody or whatever, excuse people will give about that. And I'm like, you at least got to be reserved. Unless you met some people, you just met some aliens or something. And me, I don't care where they come from. I don't care if they come from, universe is over. I don't care where they come from. There's good living beings and there's bad living beings.
Yep.
You come around here talking that stuff? No, I ain't got no time for you. But you come here and you want to help, I mean, that's fine to show compassion. But the thing about it is, you would have to look at their advancement in technology as how did they get to that technology? And we can only think from a humanistic.
I'm going to cut us off because we got the bottom of the hour break coming up. But I want to stay in this topic because not many people like to talk about aliens.
Yeah.
So let's stay on the taboo subject. We might as well. We opened Pandora's box, as it were. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. Remember, as of Monday, no more Sunday broadcasts, and I will be going 5 nights a week live, not 3 nights a week live and 2 rebroad. I will be live 10 to midnight, 5 nights a week, Monday through Friday. Yep, ouch. Stepping up to the plate. But it's nice, Joe, because I'm going to be on 2 networks now. I want to give a big shout out to both Jimmy and Shepard Ambellis. Jimmy, the owner of Orion Talk Radio, and Shepard, the owner of Unbound. Both networks are going to be carrying my broadcast in the 10 to midnight time slot, Eastern Standard Time. And you'll be able to listen to it on either network, which is awesome. And I'm still going to keep my chat room and my Listen Live page over on Federal Jack. So if anybody wants to go be interactive right now, they can go there. And any little tweaking down the road, everybody will be notified about it. But it'll be cool because it'll be a steady schedule. It'll be Monday through Friday, 10 to midnight. And we're going to start doing call-in shows and stuff like that, too, because I'm going to have access to a call board and things like that. So I'm going to be able to be a little more interactive with the listeners than I have in the past, which I've always wanted to do. But sometimes technology or lack thereof gets, you have to deal with it. So it is what it is. But now I'll be able to do that. I'll be able to step up my game and the production value of my broadcast a little bit. So I'm super excited to be able to do that. So starting this Monday, no more Sunday broadcasts, ladies and gentlemen. No more 5 to 7, or at least live anyway. But no more 5 to 7. I'm going to be going Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time. And that doesn't mean, by the way, that the Cutting Through the BS show is over. Far from it. Johnny is going to be coming on the broadcast with me probably like once a week instead of once every 2 weeks because he might only be coming on for an hour instead of 2 hours. So he'll probably be coming on once a week rather than once every 2 weeks. So it'll actually be a more frequent thing. So it's going to take, a couple of days, maybe a week or two to get the kinks knocked out here and there. But I think everything's going to go pretty smooth. And I look forward to being able to bring a better broadcast to the airwaves, not only for the live listeners, but for the listeners that hear it in the archives and the listeners that hear it, on a rebroad or whatever. It's just it's an opportunity for me that I want to give a big shout out to both network owners, because the two of them are working in conjunction with one another to make this happen. These guys are doing something historic. Because you know how hard it is, Joe. You know what I'm talking about. You know how hard it is to get people to work together. Honestly, without looking at each other like they want to punch each other in the face. And seriously, and Shepard and Jimmy aren't doing that. These guys are working together. They're laying new ground as far as I'm concerned. They're not just walking the walk. They're not just talking the talk. They're walking the walk as well. So kudos to both Shepard and Jimmy for stepping up to the plate with both networks, guys. I appreciate it again. So I want to get back into our taboo subject here, guys, which is aliens. And the scariness that, and craziness, I guess, that surrounds them, or at least what people would say. Now, I want to reiterate my point again from the last segment. I think it's ignorant and arrogant for people to think that the only living thing in the universe out there is us, and that we're the end-all, be-all. If that's true, then, wow, we are screwed, okay? I don't think that we're the end-all, be-all. I think there is other life forms out there. I'm not going to pretend to know what they are. I could, imagine, basing my imagination off of science fiction movies. I'm sure I can imagine some scary stuff, but who knows what's out there? Honestly, I don't think that if there were aliens out there that they want to come eat us or anything like that, because honestly, if they're that far, more advanced than we are, they could have just come and, snap their fingers and, all our defenses would be for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Pfft. I don't care what we have. I know there's video of us shooting at UFOs and stuff with ion cannons and stuff. I believe a lot of that stuff. And I'm sure they might have even shot one or two down over the course of time. They get lucky from time to time. But honestly, if they really wanted to come just invade us and take us over and eat us and stuff like that, like the movies push and try to scare you, they could just really snap their fingers and it would happen, right? If they're that more technologically advanced.
Exactly. I mean, if you think about how science is, how you come about science. I mean, it's through all of these, experiments put out there and everything. Yeah, they know. They're just watching. I mean, and that's just a theory. That's just one theory. I mean, the other theory, that it's just us. I mean, and that just seems like a big, huge waste of space. And it doesn't even make any sense. We don't even know about this planet yet. How in the world can any human being on this planet sit there and definitively say there is no aliens and that's just a conspiracy theory? Because it's easy for them to believe, but no, that logically, and a lot of big intellectual people, mathematicians and everything have said the same thing. Mathematically, it's possible that there is stuff out there, probable, actually. And then they're out there and they're going to sit there and look. I mean, what does human beings do in their science? They take and they have a control group. Then they have their group that they're going to experiment on from their control group. And they sit there and they observe, and maybe they toss this in, that in to see a reaction, but how is all science derived? It's from experimentation. And they wouldn't dare, come down here and say, nah, 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 nah. Even if they were, even me, maybe out there, because the universe is so broad, I mean, maybe they're out there. And those people, those aliens that would come here and be like, I'm just going to wipe this whole planet out, hadn't made it here yet. There's a lot of gray area in this, theory and argument.
Oh, I totally believe that there's stuff out there. And again, I don't think, if they were going to invade, they already did, according to a lot of these older writings. I don't want to say scriptures because that kind of sounds biblical, but these old writings or texts or whatever, they already invaded thousands of years ago. So, I don't think. I think they more or less stand back and look at us in like a science experiment, and they're just keeping an eye on us because we're not evolved to that level where we could deal with them, because we still would act hysterical and scream and yell and try to kill them. Even if you judged us based on say they didn't have a way of actually watching us, and the only way that they could keep an eye on us was to monitor the frequencies and the transmissions that come from the planet. Do you ever watch the alien movies that we put out? Are we ever friendly to the aliens that ever show up in these movies? No. So even if they were piping in just the movie stream itself, which I doubt, but if they're that technologically advanced that you could fly through space, they can only pick up radios and TV signals? Really? Okay, that just doesn't work. You know what I'm saying, dude? Come on, really? Like,
yeah.
Look at it logically, as in all life. If you look at all life, there's good and there's bad. And it's got to be the same.
Yeah.
It's got to be the same with them. There's got to be good aliens and bad aliens. But me personally, I don't care. I don't care where you come from. You can be orc from orc, you can be any of that stuff. I don't care. It's either you good or you bad. What are your intentions? And the thing about it is, that's why I don't spend a lot of time in that kind of talk and trying to push that agenda of, saying like, hey, people, open your mind, look at, you don't even know about this planet, you don't know about your community, you don't know about all this stuff. How in the world are you going to have a definitive opinion that, that's just all crazy talk, and when the probabilities, the mathematical equations add up to the probability is that they do exist. But one thing we do know is that we really don't know unless you met them. And I guarantee you, my theory on it is that there's good and there's bad, just like in all other life,
I agree. I want to pick your brain on one other subject because time is limited. So there's one other thing I want to pick your brain on. It's something that, like I was talking to you off air earlier. I was telling you guys about it. You're both veterans yourselves, so you guys understand things on a different level, than some of the civilians would. But and I've explained to the listeners before that I have I hold a certain amount of guilt towards myself for my involvement with the support physically and emotionally at the time and verbally during the Iraq invasion. And to me, any support in it or for it at the time, or a mixture of both, which was in my case, is just as equal to pulling the trigger on an innocent civilian. So the way that I make up for it now, and it's not that anybody else has ever said that to me, it's how I feel. So the way I make up for it is by educating people about the realities of what happened in the Iraq invasion and everything like that, and the truth about things. And this year was the 10-year anniversary, so I did 3 broadcasts dedicated specifically to just demolishing the lies about Iraq and all that. So in the time we have left, I want to pick your brain. I know how you feel, but for the listeners, how do you feel about the invasion of Iraq, CDC? What do you got to say about it?
Oh, man, it was horrible. The world spoke up. Millions upon millions of people around the world. And honestly, to tell you the truth, like I told you on the break, I did not believe that they were going to do it. Everybody was saying they're going to do it, they're going to do it, they're going to do it. And I'm like, they're not going to do it. No way that all of these millions of people spoke up around the world. Now, I was in Iraq at the time, and all I knew was the information that I was getting from my underground friends who were back in the States and what kind of media they were getting, and my friends in the UK, the media that they were getting. And I didn't think it was going to happen. And when it did happen, I was totally kind of shocked. I'm like, I'm never going to say anything's definitely not going to happen. And my gut told me, it's like, no way these people are going to be able to do that to these people that I just spent, the last month with, and all of these different families and all these different children, how they're just going to, do the shock and awe, 3,000 Tomahawk missiles coming down. And there's no way they're going to do that, but they did it. And everybody told me. I was like the lone man out on that one, because I was like, there's no way they're going to do this. There's no way they can do this. And, and I know how dirty they are. I read the classified government documents, years before that. I've been an activist and everything, and I know to the level they would do. But I don't know. I guess it was personal because I was there, and I felt bad because I kept telling, all the Iraqis, whether it was Sunni or Shiite or Bedouins, any of those cats out there, the Kurdish, I was like, nah, they ain't going to do nothing, man. They just, they're just running their mouth, trying to get something going. And then I felt bad about, what happened, because I didn't think they were going to do it. So that's why I'm always hesitant from giving my view on what's going to happen in the future, because it's like I'm wrong so many times, because I'm thinking about how we, from my point of view, having all the senses of like caring about humanity. I don't care what color you are, what race you are, what religion you are. If you're not chopping people's heads off, you're good to go. If you're preaching peace, that's all good. But, it's crazy when I think about it. Yeah, because like you said, the 10-year anniversary and all of that stuff is like, it hit hard. Because I remember all of those kids that I had talked to when I was there, and I wonder about them, and I really want to go back, because I know a lot of people out there and want to go back, but, I felt safer then before the invasion than I would going back now, because I could see a reason why they would hate me, and I just, yeah, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it amazes me when people are like, they hate us for our freedoms over there, those arrogant Iraqis. And I'm like, I want to smack you in the mouth, dude. How would you like if someone came into your goddamn country and mowed down over 1 million people? Just, the level of arrogance and ignorance.
What would we do if the Chinese came over here and did that to us?
Exactly.
Well, we'd be digging holes with IEDs and blowing up the Chinese soldiers as they drove by.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be doing exactly what they're doing.
It was a good example. I wish I had videoed it of the New York Times, because we did a lot of movements against the mainstream media when we was over there. Like, we go down on their headquarters for the ones who remain. And one of them caught me. It was really my good first lesson of seeing how these cats twist stuff. And the guy was like, well, you're a human shield. And I was like, well, we come here autonomously and stuff like that, but we're going to take part in the human shield action. My friends and stuff from the West Coast who went over there, we wanted to be autonomous, but as we learned more about the action, we want to take part in it. And he was like, well, what do you think about that dog right there? And somebody had brought a dog there with him, and they had a little sign that said human shield. What do you think about him, being a human shield? And I was like, and I went on talking to, New York Times. I'm sitting here talking to this cat like, well, I don't know if the dog really got a choice in it if you want to talk, really analytically about the situation. And, the dog doesn't really have a choice. But, and the only thing that they put out was the dumbest activists in the world can't tell the difference between a human shield and a dog shield. And man, I'm telling you, that was like, I can't believe they just sit here and totally misconstrued that whole thing, because this guy was really nice, really. And from that point on, it's like, nah, it's all an act. These cats are crazy. They're not telling the truth. They were putting out stories that the Iraqi people wanted the war, that they're going to, be sitting there waiting, waving American flags and all of this. And I come from a military background family, and my dad was always from, he's in Vietnam and everything. And it was the thing about, not sending the American troops, our soldiers, the cats on the lines out there who believe in the Constitution, who really want to, protect this country and everything. You don't want to stick them out there again, out in a situation where they're out there fighting for the politicians and fighting for oil. They're fighting for this strategic location and all this stuff. You do not want to do that again. And that was a big driving force.
It pisses me off to no end, man. It just pisses me off to no end when I see how they abuse the soldiers and sailors, the Marines, and people go, well, they do bad things, and I've exposed a lot of the war crimes that go on, and the people that do that stuff need to atone for it. That yes.
No, but they're kids. But that's the thing. You got to think about when you were 18, 19, 20 years old. When I was that age, I was in the military. All I want to do was kill a Russian. Never met a Russian in my life, but all I want to do was my life, because that's what they pumped into me.
Of course. Well, that's
my dad was always like, you ain't never met a Russian. Why do you want to kill somebody you ain't never met? And I was like, they're the enemy. We're going to have to do this. So therefore, I'm in this mentality. I just need to accept it. And that's the thing. I see these kids. It's like, wow, they got a lot to go. They've been brought up in a world of 9/11 and Patriot Act and all this stuff, and who the bad guys are. And they've been pumped because that's how they train. It's the art of war. That's how they train all the militaries. You got to get them into that.
That's
the enemy.
that's where I've talked about how these guys. That's why you gotta be mad at the individual for doing it because they have a choice. But you can't just hate them. You have to hate the people that are actually playing the game of chess, not just the chess piece itself. You can't get pissed off at the chess piece for being a chess piece, right? Like one of my hacker friends said to me, "You can't get mad at a hacker for being a hacker. Would you get mad at a lion for chasing down a zebra and eating the zebra? A lion is a lion. It's going to do what it does.
Yeah, it's going to do what it does.
Right? So you don't get mad at the player. You get mad at the person playing the game. You know what I mean? You don't get mad at the game piece. You get mad at the person who's actually manipulating the game piece. And when you look at these people, they don't care about any of these kids and stuff. But what they do is they get these kids to hold the karmic debt. So they go over and they actually do the physical killing. So karmically, they're holding that debt because they physically did the killing. But did they really want to do the killing? No. The people that really wanted to do the killing and had the bloodlust were the scumbags that sent them there to begin with.
Yeah, they just took a pen and put their signature on it for other people to go off and kill other poor people.
That's right.
That's why I say, I went back and forth with the whole thing of the soldiers, they should put down their arms. Yeah, I could see that. But then again, these are kids. And I remember what I was like at that age. And it's the system that messes them up. That's the whole thing about it. It's the system that messes them up, and they put them right up in there to do things that later in life, when they get older and they start actually have lived their life and experienced life as an adult, they're going to think about those things that cause all kinds of problems. And then what do? They don't care. They don't care. They're going to cut your benefits. They're going to take it away from you and all this stuff. But when they need a photo op, they're going to have you behind them.
You got that right. I thought it was somebody brought this up on Facebook yesterday. I thought this was kind of ironic that the wife of a president who failed to protect an embassy, like if you go by the official story, that he just they just failed to protect the embassy. So the wife of a president who failed to protect an embassy presented the Oscar to the directors of a movie about a successful embassy rescue. What's the definition of irony? I was just like, well, it's all propaganda. That's why. I mean, did you see that whole thing where she was up there and she had the military standing behind her like they were set pieces?
Yeah, like Jessica Lynch.
Oh, that whole thing was, people argue with me, that's not fake. Dude,
are you kidding?
They admit that they filmed that whole thing. It was all fake. What was his name? Bruckheimer or whatever came in and filmed it for them. I'm not kidding. Go look it up. They brought in one of these big Hollywood producers. I think it was Bruckheimer, whoever it was.
And I can see that. I mean, I can really see that being there with all of those different people over there in Iraq. They didn't want war, and the people did not want that. And they would have totally taken care of that woman, which they did, and it wouldn't have been anything. Because what we had over there was the fear committee, and they would come around and say, like, all right, we got to have these secret passcodes in case something's wrong and all this. And I'm like, I've already talked to all these cats, all the Iraqi people. They're not bad people. They don't want bad things to come from anybody. I don't care if you're American or not. And those doctors took care of her. And yeah, it was all Hollywood and all admitted, and people were like, blow it out on the mainstream.
I can't stand the lamestream dinosaur media. But you know what? We're going to put them in their spot where they belong, boys.
We're really turning the tide, man. I'll tell you what. It's only going to get better from here.
They're crumbling. They're crumbling. They're crumbling. That's all it is. They're crumbling. People are seeing that, you're a hypocrite. How can you say this 1 minute and then you say this and push this agenda the next? It's insane. And they are crumbling. And the thing about it is, you can tell in the more fluff media, like late talk show hosts and all of this, where they start bashing on them, depending on how they're swaying. It's like because they make it so. It's ridiculous.
They're little puppets, man. That's what they do. Guys, we're clearly running out of time.
Yes, we are.
Literally the end of the broadcast. It's coming up like that. And it just went, the second hour went by. Well, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you stay tuned in, because next week it's just going to get better and better and better. And I promise we're going to be doing more interactive stuff, taking calls. Guys, thanks for hanging out. Ladies and gentlemen, check out Change the Channel on YouTube and the Freedom Link radio broadcast. I'm Addy.